You really can't avoid Elon Musk these days, can you? I mean, he's everywhere.
Not really, no. He's fundamentally changing industries, electric cars, rockets.
But now it feels like something else is happening, like he's stepping more and more into politics.
Exactly. And that's what we want to dig into today.
Right. So this is our deep dive into Elon Musk's path. How did he get this level of influence, and what's the actual evidence suggesting, well, political ambitions?
Yeah, we've looked at a lot of material. His career, obviously, the big ventures like SpaceX and Tesla, his public statements, which are quite something.
And the controversies, too, you can't ignore those.
Definitely not.
Mm.
But the goal here isn't to, take sides on his views. It's more about understanding the journey and looking objectively at the signs pointing towards this potential political direction.
Okay, got it. So let's start at the beginning. The person, right? Before the icon.
Well, our sources trace him back to Pretoria, South Africa, born in 1971.
And apparently quite an introverted kid. Lots of reading, but already into computers and tech very early on.
That's right. And get this, he coded and sold his first video game, Blastar, when he was just 12.
12. Wow. That's pretty telling, isn't it? Shows that entrepreneurial spark was there from the get-go.
It really does. That mix of technical ability and actually wanting to build something and sell it, that kind of early success probably shaped his belief that he could, make his ideas happen.
And then he moves to the U.S. University, Stanford for a bit.
Yep, University of Pennsylvania, then a very brief stint in a PhD program at Stanford. He quickly decided that wasn't his path, I guess.
Yeah.
Put him right in Silicon Valley, though.
Right place, right time. And it seems he didn't waste much time jumping into the dot-com scene.
Not at all. The sources highlight those early wins. Zip2, First City Guys for newspapers, sold that to Compaq.
Okay.
Then X.com, which crucially merged and became PayPal, sold to eBay. Big money.
Huge exits, both of them.
Yep.
And that must have provided the foundation, the capital for everything that came next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't just the money, though that was obviously key. It was the experience, learning how to build and scale these tech companies.
And maybe the confidence to go after even bigger things.
I think so. The conviction to chase these really, really audacious goals, even when people were skeptical. See this pattern. Identify a huge problem, think of a tech solution, and just pursue it relentlessly.
And audacious barely covers SpaceX, does it? Founded in 2002. The goal, colonizing Mars. I mean,
It sounded like pure science fiction to a lot of people back then. The sources definitely reflect that skepticism.
but then 2008, Falcon 1, the first privately funded liquid-fueled rocket to make orbit. That must have silenced some critics. What made that so important beyond just being first?
Well, a big part of it was cost. They managed it for significantly less than government programs through new approaches to design and manufacturing. It showed a different way to access space was possible. Private companies could hit major milestones. It sort of opened the door.
Okay, proving the concept. And then there's Tesla. Again, huge initial struggles, right? But now,
Now it's this massive company that basically forced the entire auto industry to pivot to electric. The sources detail just how close they came to failure sometimes. But Musk's persistence paid off. What do you think were the key innovations there?
well, the sources point to a few things. Battery tech, obviously. Their software integration was a big deal, too. And maybe crucially, that direct-to-consumer sales model, skipping the dealerships.
Right, that completely bypassed the old system, forced everyone to rethink how cars are sold.
And it's not just those two giants. There's the Boring Company digging tunnels, Neuralink, brain-computer interfaces, even OpenAI initially.
Yeah, it's quite a portfolio. What connects them, do you think, beyond just being, ambitious?
It feels like they all challenge the way things are done, right? They're aimed at what he sees as fundamental human progress, transportation, intelligence, maybe even biology.
I agree. They contribute to this Musk brand, as the sources call it. He's not just a CEO. He's painted as this visionary tackling huge problems for humanity.
And that resonates, doesn't it? People looking for big solutions, bold leadership.
Definitely. And that brand is, well, it's carefully cultivated, but also genuinely driven by his actions and, importantly, his online persona.
Ah, yes, the social media aspect. Very active, very unconventional for a CEO. Tweets, memes, live streams.
It's not typical corporate behavior, is it? But it works for him. Keeps him constantly in the conversation.
How does that actually build influence, do you think? That sort of raw, unfiltered approach?
Well, it creates this feeling of directness, perceived authenticity, maybe, Compared to polished corporate speak, his style can feel refreshing to some.
Like hosting Saturday Night Live, you don't see many tech CEOs doing that.
Exactly, or his tweets moving markets. And then the whole Twitter becoming X saga, very public, very debated. It all feeds into this larger-than-life, rule-breaking image.
But it's not all positive attention, is it? The sources are clear on the controversy.
Well, absolutely. Clashes with the SEC, those labor issues at Tesla factories.
And his political statements have become much more frequent and pointed. Things about free speech, the pandemic, immigration. We're just noting the topics here, not the specifics.
Right, and the question is, do these controversies hurt his brand, or for some people, do they actually strengthen it?
What do the sources suggest there?
It seems polarizing. For critics, it confirms their concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But for his supporters, it can reinforce the image of him as a disruptor, someone willing to fight the establishment, even if it means, taking flack.
Like the Twitter X transformation, positioning it as all about free speech.
Precisely. Willing to embrace controversy for a stated principle, it galvanizes his base.
Okay, so he's this hugely influential figure, often controversial, but with a very loyal following. And this is where the political angle really comes into focus, isn't it?
It seems so. The sources point to him being much more vocal politically, especially on X, obviously,
Calling himself a moderate or an independent thinker.
while commenting quite strongly on things like border security, government regulation, energy policy, wokeness, free speech debates.
It's a broad range of hot-button issues.
And it's gone beyond just tweets. There are concrete actions, like endorsing political candidates.
His support for Ron DeSantis in the 2022 midterms, for example, that felt like a clear step into the ring.
It did. How do you square those endorsements with his self-description as moderate?
That's a good question. Maybe his definition of moderate is different. Or it's strategic alignment. It certainly suggests leaning towards certain factions, doesn't it?
It does. And then, crucially, there's the ownership of X itself.
Right, the
Yeah.
platform. As the sources stress, that gives him immense power to shape political discussion. He can amplify certain views, influence narratives.
It's like owning a global megaphone almost.
Yeah.
A huge form of political power without holding office.
And he's meeting with world leaders, too, presidents, prime ministers.
Yes, the sources mention interactions with U.S. presidents, Chinese officials, the Indian PM. He's involved in policy discussions too, AI, safety, energy, Starlink's role in Ukraine.
So he's being treated as a player on the global stage, not just a business guy.
It certainly seems that way. These aren't just photo ops. They suggest real engagement on substantive issues.
And his stated preferences, pro-innovation, lower taxes, less bureaucracy, they resonate with a certain crowd, right? Especially in tech, maybe libertarian circles.
Definitely. It paints a picture of someone with a clear worldview and an increasing desire to push that view politically.
So the big question everyone asks, will he actually run for office?
Well, the sources are very clear on the legal side for president.
Yeah.
Born in South Africa, so under current U.S. law, that's a no-go.
Right, the Constitution is pretty specific there.
But that doesn't mean he can't exert huge political influence in other ways, does it?
No, absolutely not. As the sources point out, he could fund movements, lobby heavily, back think tanks, support candidates.
Theoretically, he could even start his own party or platform, focus on his themes.
It feels like he's already exploring those avenues, testing the waters, perhaps, shaping things without needing his name on a ballot.
Exactly. And some argue, as the sources note, that he is already a political force, just through his platform, his companies, his ability to drive narratives.
Which brings up that interesting question for you, the listener. What does it mean when someone with that much power isn't directly elected, isn't accountable in the same way a politician is?
It's a critical point. And the sources do outline concerns. His communication style, sometimes impulsive, right? Could that be risky at a policy level?
Worries about misinformation on his platform, too,
Yeah.
potential conflicts between his business interests and, say, democratic principles, how he handles dissent.
All valid concerns raised in the materials we reviewed.
But there's another side presented, too, isn't there? Arguments for his influence.
Yes. Some see him as a needed counterbalance. Someone challenging established powers, political elites, mainstream media, government inertia. A disruptive force may be necessary for progress.
It's really complex, no easy answers.
Not at all. And that's sort of the bottom line from our sources. Musk is unique. He's not just a billionaire. He's a tech force, a cultural icon, and increasingly a political influencer.
Whether he ever runs for anything or just keeps influencing from the sidelines, that remains to be seen.
Absolutely. The future role is uncertain.
So the question we leave you with is this. Is this growing influence, Musk's influence, ultimately going to be good for progress? Or could it just lead to more division?
The sources don't give us a crystal ball, unfortunately. The long-term impact is still playing out.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Elon Musk's journey and where it might be heading politically.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot to think about regarding tech, power, and politics, doesn't it? We hope you'll keep pondering what it means when tech leaders become major political figures.